Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this global session, Turning Family Influence into a Pathway for Student Success. I see that we are having quite a number of attendees already, and more are coming. So I'm just gonna give them a minute or two for everybody to be able to get into the global session. The purpose of this session today is going to be discussed parental influence, not from the point of view that parents are bad and they mess with the counselors in universities' job. The overall, what are the parents' expectations? How counselors can manage parental expectations? How universities can sustain the relationship with parents? What are some tips and tricks about communicating to parents the new novel and niche degrees that they might not be familiar with? So all of this is going to be discussed today, and I think that we can start. On the panel today with me, I have Kevin Dupont, who is the head of university and career counseling at their international school in Dubai. And I think he doesn't really need to be presented. Everybody knows Kevin. We have Cleona McMenamin, who is the head of career and a mathematics teacher. Very scary for me at Dubai College, obviously in Dubai. We have Shahana Salman, who is the head of careers and university guidance at Uptown International School in Dubai. And from the university's point of view, we have Malvika Kajuria, who is the Global B2B Partnerships and Growth at Tetar College of Business. And we also have Willy Zuluaga, who is the head of international recruitment at Toulouse Business School Education. I have prepared a list of questions that we are going to go through, and we're going to see where the discussion takes us. In terms of role of speakers, right now on my screen, I have Leona, Shahana, Kevin, Malvika, and Willy. So basically, that's how I'm going to follow the role of speakers, unless there is a question specifically to any of you. So first, I want to start with a discussion on what is parental influence and how each one of you understands parental influence. So my first question would you be, how would you describe the typical ways parental influence shapes a student's university and degree choices in your school? Cleona?
I suppose, first of all, a lot of parents, which is understandable, will prioritize the prestige and the rankings and I suppose the perceived job security that the students will have. So they think of things like medicine, law, engineering, a lot of the very vocational degrees so that they know that the student will have a job when they come out of university. Um, a lot of the time, this, I suppose, drives the students towards the very competitive traditional courses and really towards specific countries. We find with our students, the UK, the US, Canada are very big players. Um, so the main thing I would think is sometimes they're not specifically aligning the courses with the students' strengths or their interests, but they're very much thinking about where are these courses going to take us, and those are the courses and the countries that the parents will be prioritizing for their students, I think, more than anything.
Shahana, have you noticed the same?
So for us, we have more of a local setting as well, plus international. So what we have noticed is more of the family expectation in terms of traditional choices and having a family legacy that students are expected to lead on. Plus, there's a lot of cultural pressure that comes around from the community, from their cousins, from their peers, where we are seeing that sometimes they do misalign with the student interest, and they do end up taking more familiar choices and familiar programs. So yes, quite similar with what Cleona said, but we also have a little lineage towards traditional as well as cultural preferences as well.
Thank you. And Kevin, your perspective.
I'll take things a little bit differently. Yes, of course, we have the same things, but for us, it sort of also depends on which program the student is doing with us. We have 4 leaving qualifications here at DIS, and that definitely changes the expectations of the student. And so let's say if a student is doing, let's say, BTech business, then their expectations are going to be very different than an IB diploma student. So I think it really depends on the context. In a lot of cases for us, we do have the traditional, popular majors like Cleona mentioned, but we're starting to see students explore them in maybe untraditional places, which is very exciting. And I think families are relying on us more and more to know about these untraditional places, which is fun and terrifying all at the same time. So I think I've seen more reliance on well, me really to have to sort of open up some of these other conversations now because of whether it's untraditional courses or locations or maybe locations that were once popular are now seeing lesser popularity.
Thank you. And I would like also to hear the university's perspective from Willie and Malvika. How do you see this parental influence manifests itself in the application and the enrollment process? Let's start with the lady, with Malvika.
So in the applications that we've received, especially coming as a new age program and a different value proposition, one way to understand how parents perceive the choice versus students is that parents are more thinking about the why and the where. So when I say why, I mean things like ROI. And when I say where, it's like, where will they study? What will the safety be like? How will they travel? And a lot of their protective instincts kind of come in. The students are more excited by the what and the how how will I turn up at college, who will my friends be, what does it look like, do you have clubs, how will I do these projects. So they're very, I would say in some cases the students are thinking more short term and medium term. Parents are definitely looking at trying to understand from a long term perspective, which is the why, and therefore that becomes key to the discussion with parents. I think the challenges for universities come in when parents are not sure what questions they're asking. So they're looking for the why and they're trying to understand the safety, but they're conflicted between, is my why, what's important to me? Is it prestige? Is it, or does that not matter? What matters is more long-term career skills. Am I looking at, entrepreneurship options for my kid, or options to sort of like, take a stable career in a, in a corporate setting? So some of those discussions actually lead to us asking them questions to understand them better and help them maybe first demystify their own whys, and then maybe say, okay, listen, here's how we align. And honestly, if there's no alignment, then we also say that maybe this is not the right place for you.
Thank you. And Willie, what's your perspective?
Here in TBS education, we want to be very transparent and very honest with the parent, because during the application, we see that the parents are very involved in the application of their kids, and we want them to provide a lot of information, to be very transparent regarding our numbers and where are they will be in which campus, if it will be in Toulouse or Paris, which city is better. And we want to focus on the campus where will be their children. And we want to do like maybe webinars with them to reassure that the students will be in a good place in TBS education.
Thank you, Willie. A few of the counselors mentioned, this the parents' perspective of going to the traditional degrees or, the most famous universities. So my question to the counselors is, what strategies have you found effective in helping parents move beyond the pressure for top-ranked or traditional programs? Cleona?
I suppose really just framing the options around the outcomes. So looking at the data, what kind of employability, what are the graduate salaries? I suppose looking at alumni stories. So anyone from our school, where have they gone on? What have they done since? Especially if we look at people who have taken those less traditional fields, getting them to come in and talk to the parents and actually showing that they've been quite successful without taking that traditional route or those traditional universities or traditional courses. Then inviting employers or alumni in to speak again about the career paths, getting the employers in, asking what are they actually looking for? Are they looking for this very traditional route? But how can they repurpose, I suppose, their conversation around purpose and fit and making sure that it's the right fit for the students? So very much making the parents, or not making them, but asking the parents to come in, talk to us, see if they can understand where other people have gone with this and how their life has evolved after they've left the school.
Yesterday during one of the sessions, I shared this case of mine where I was helping a student apply to the UK, and his mom was like, "Oh, I know everything about applications to UK. I studied there." And I was like, "Okay, so you're familiar with UCAS?" And she's looking at me. She's like, "Okay, maybe I went to the UK a long time ago and I don't know it anymore." Shekana, let's move on to you and your strategies.
I would voice what you said. So I do personally believe in starting early. So starting as giving them having a plan and a pathway where students are engaged in those conversations much earlier, whether it is with career or industry professionals or alumni or mentors, or having senior students as mentors, and not only with the student, but with the family as well. So that really helped make the parents understand where it is leading towards. With that, we also introduced programs where we were taking parents to university visits. We were showing them how things have changed over the years, how universities are transforming in their educational style, and how the markets are generating roles and responsibilities which are above and beyond as to what their perception was before. So I think those personalized conversations, having those one-to-one meetings with every single student, and not only as a counselor, but involving our senior leadership into those conversations to have a more holistic approach, really made that parent really reflect on their current practices and how they could develop a better plan and pathway for their children.
Thank you. And as Eleanor just wrote in the chat, we don't know what we don't know. I think we can all agree. Kevin, what about you and your strategies?
Well, not to echo everybody else, but I think one thing that's been effective this year is we have quite a large number of graduates compared to prior years, and using some of the case studies of students who have been admitted to the top universities, saying this is what they had in IB, this is what they had in GCSEs, these were their activities, and really, being direct about what the students had done and putting that into framework allows parents see, oh yeah, my son or daughter does not have those things, or they need to build those things, or they might never get some of those opportunities because they choose a different pathway and that's not always available. So we've been using those frameworks to help parents frame expectations earlier too, and students of course. But I think that's been quite helpful, just being kind of direct and saying, if you don't have above 8s in GCSEs, you won't probably go to an Ivy or an Oxford. That's just how it works, for the sake of an example. So that's been quite useful. Obviously, it's not everyone's favorite thing to hear, but it is the reality. We have to tell them that as much as we can. They might not listen, but at least telling them, we voice that out there is one thing that's useful.
True. And for Willie and Malvika, you're both coming from institutions that are famous for their business degrees. So how do you communicate with parents who are focused on having their students, their children following the conventional degrees like medicine or law or engineering? How do you explain to them why a business degree is what would be useful for their child? Malvika?
So many of the students, even though most students who apply to TETR are already interested in commerce, business, or entrepreneurship, there are times when students who have, had initially taken up a non-business stream have sort of chosen to explore TETR. In most of these cases where parents are aligned already and they're there to explore it with us, we essentially, I mean, Kevin said that too. I think just using success from, we don't have too many batches, by the way. We're building out our second batch. But for example, I'll give you an example. There's this kid based in UK that I met recently in one of our offline meetups. So we also do a lot of offline meetups, by the way, where we invite all the students who have received our an offer letter or have passed the interview and they come and meet us along with their parents. We invite everyone. Now, one of the students said that, I was looking at medical, but now I'm taking up TETR. I'm not very sure if this is the right thing for me. I love it, but it's a big decision. And the next thing that we did was we connected him to this girl who had taken up a similar transition last year and had made the choice. And she's someone who was based in Dubai. And she'd made the choice of taking up this business degree instead of taking medical, and just connecting them through a buddy program sort of like did two things. One, it gave them a genuine perspective from the student. We're not sure if she said she's happy with it or not happy with it or how she went about it, but we opened up that line directly without any involvement. So we brought in a lot of transparency. So I think that worked for us, in terms of giving the parents the understanding that this kind of a transition is actually good and the kid is very happy because they're pursuing something that they're passionate about. Second, it reflected, I think, well on us as an institute because we did not kind of shy back from like just getting the students connected. In fact, we use the student community very, very effectively, and we don't mind sort of like and we already have like including WhatsApp communities and online communities where they're able to just kind of have a conversation with each other. A lot of times when parents say, hey, can I talk to someone's parents who are in a similar situation as me? We also allow for that. But eventually both storytelling really helps because it kind of gives the why or the reason some kind of a visual sort of understanding for them. They can understand what that transition will look like. So if you're able to help them visualize that choice, it gives them a lot of trust. And then secondly, like I said, newsletters, semester-wise reports, any kind of reporting extra information that could be shared with them apart from the buddy program is also something that helps us. We also, by the way, have something called as a scholarship. It's called the Pathfinder Scholarship, where we give extra monetary aid to someone who has made it to, say, an Ivy League or one of the top ranking schools, and we say that if you choose to come to TETR, which is an unconventional option, we will make tuition more affordable for you by a considerable amount compared to other students. So that then also becomes a story point to say that if there is a bottleneck for you, maybe we can help you kind of overlook that because we are ready to take that risk on you and bet on you rather than you taking that bet on a new program. We'll get you more scholarships. So I think that helps us really have a very fair conversation with them.
Thank you. You have a lot of implemented strategies for this. And Willie, how about TBS?
Malvika was right. It is to show also to the students, to the alumni stories of our students, which is very important for the future students who wants to come to tea-based education, is to show what management can bring them to have a work here in France, for example. Because here in France it's a little bit different from other countries that we do 2 years of general management and you have a last year of specialization. So it's to show them that even if you are doing management, you will do mathematics, accountability, law, you will do general studies, and after you will have to choose a specialization. And here in TBS education, we have like in the bachelor management, we have maybe 17 or 18 different specializations. We got aerospace management, luxury, international business, digital marketing. You have a lot of specialization. So basically, it's to show them that you will be involved in the management courses, in economic courses, but it's not only management.
Thank you. I'd like to move a little bit on the topic of mediation and conflict resolution with a question to the counselors if they can share some stories and cases where they had this with parents having a very specific view of what their child should study and where they should study it well. The student is obviously having very different views. So have you had these cases? And if yes, how do you mediate in this situation? Cleona?
I suppose we start, first of all, with empathy and active listening, making sure that we're listening to both the students' ideas and the parents' hopes. We will have one-to-one meetings with the students we'll also have a one-to-one meeting with the parents so that we have the separate meetings to find out their ideas and what they actually want from the university and what they actually see as the future. And then we can explore both perspectives. We can present neutral data to them. We're very much that we're just presenting the data rather than giving an opinion. Propose some compromises if those are needed. Can we look at a joint degree option? Can we look at something that would fit ideas that would work for both the parent and the student? The main thing is just trying to align what they want. Rather than taking sides, we just question things more and get them to think about how we can work and make sure that the students' ideas and their well-being, I suppose, behind it all is taken into consideration rather than just focusing on what the outcome will be at the end. Can we get something that will work for both parties?
And have you had these cases where your mediation skills had really had to step forward?
Most of the time, we can give enough information that the student and the parents will have a bit more discussion. It's really opening the discussion between them. I'm not sure whether my mediation has helped or the student has given into the parents' ideas or the other way around. But a lot of the time it opens that dialogue, I think, and that's the big part. It's the fact that they've got other options to explore and they can look at other things that may help. As I said, possibly a course that combines the two things rather than just focusing on one central course or one central university.
Thank you. And Shahana, how about you? What are your cases?
So some of the queries that we come across and some of the conversations that we are involved in is when a student is struggling at a higher level subject, and we are having those conversations with parents to see how the student could be transferred to a subject which is easier access, better points, better future opportunities. And these usually happen, I'm sure, in most of the schools when a student is being moved from a IBDP to a IBCP or IB courses program. So some of the conversations that we had with parents in terms of business degrees, where they were trying to get the student to do a higher level, but they could still access very strong universities, very strong programs with the lower level. And another thing I noticed in those conversations was a language barrier. Sometimes we have parents who are not able to interpret the terminologies that the universities are using on the platforms or how we are informing them. So breaking it down to their level, making them understand on a very layman level just made the conversation so much easier for them. And also for parents to understand our perspective, the students' perspective, the school's perspective, and see what is the bigger picture there. And what I have also noticed that many a time there might be misconceptions based on how they were perceiving or what they have heard from their family or friends or colleagues. And because of that, they came across to us with a very strong opinion. But once the data was shared, once the conversations were broken down on a very ground and basic level, and they were able to see that. And also sometimes we do involve a university rep to have a joint conversation with us to reassure them that they can still access something which might seem very aspirational on a very lower level as well. So I think it's just breaking the ground and making everyone come together and understand on the same page, but also realizing and interpreting their language and their vision and their perspective.
You mentioned data, and I'm going to get back to that question with the data later on, but now move on to Kevin.
I think sometimes we don't even realize that we're mediating things. I had a student come in, they asked one question, and then a parent came in, their parent came in at another next day, asked a totally different question. And then you're like, oh, wait, they're saying one thing and they're saying another. Let's pull this together. It's quite tricky. To give a case study, I had a student who really, really wanted to go to America. And they were so set in America, and then we kind of know what happened more recently, and they really can't go to America anymore because they probably won't get a visa, or it's likely they won't get a visa. And but the student still was quite committed to going there, and we had to sort of put the realities into check between what the student wanted and what the parents were, seeing and were witnessing, and so sometimes it can be quite quite difficult because the students have these dreams and we don't want to crush them, but we have to kind of, at least give some sort of guidance towards how the world is working, especially I think coming from Dubai where they don't see the same things that they might see elsewhere. And that can be understood as much as you want. We have to give them some of those realities. And sometimes even the parents aren't aware either of what might be going on in the world and how things will work. So I guess being that person to give the reality check is something we have to do in a lot of scenarios, like everyone's already said.
Reality checks. I have a question here in the chat from Natya Gaprindashvili, who says, thank you so much for this amazing conference. What I could observe during my first year in Kuwait, students and parents mostly tend to apply in the US or the UK. I rarely see students applying to Europe, and I would like to hear your opinions on why is Europe a less popular decision when there are so many good schools out there. And I would like actually to give the floor to Willie and Malvika for this. Willie is obviously from a college based in Europe, but Malvika Stater College takes a more global approach. So what do you think? Is this because of traditional destinations and parents being not aware of Europe, or is there some other problem with Europe because of which US and UK are preferable?
So one of our programs is in partnership with UBI Europe, which is it's a business school based out of Madrid. They've got also campuses in Luxembourg, Shanghai, and in Brussels. And Madrid is the one that we've partnered with. So our students spend their last year in Madrid, and that's where they get their degree. Students in general are very excited about Europe, but I think that the reason why parents are still not as excited about Europe in comparison to maybe the United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia, is because I think those regions have done a lot more work in terms of bringing the universities and the names and the brands to different parts of the world. And I'm thinking still more in context of transnational education that people don't really know enough because the universities in those countries maybe haven't and I mean I'm just saying from in terms of the volume. Of course, some universities are very, very well regarded, even in our, for example, partnerships with INSEAD, HFarm, Bocconi. They're very well received, and these are more small certificate program courses. And of course, if we were to have a long-term program level association with them as well, that would be really well received too. But in terms of just, I think, the sheer volume and the number of universities that are known in the other countries, it just becomes like, the destination. Because if you're aiming at a UK, you may have like 50, 60 different options, and then anyone works out for you, you can move. And that's how I'm thinking about it. But I think in Europe, maybe much lesser number of universities are well known enough, and especially attracting international audiences. But I'm sure that Willie, I think you're in a better place to comment because of being in Europe.
So, thank you, Malvika. Yes, I think it's just a thing of communication. Maybe US and UK schools are better in communication than European schools, but I think it's maybe also regarding geopolitical conversations, but Europe is more and more attractive for international students. We have more and more international students coming from Middle East, from US, Canada, in France, in general in France. If you see numbers from Campus France, you have a lot of students from US, UK coming in France. So maybe next year, I guess Europe will be more and more attractive for international students. But nowadays, the US and UK business school, I would say, they're really good in communication, I would say.
So communication again is key, even in this case here. I'd like to move on to a more practical question for the counselors. If you can share with us, what exactly do you do with the parents to provide them with information? Do you organize special events for parents? Do you organize special evening for parents when universities are visiting? Do you also invite the parents so that they could get to know universities better? Cleona?
I suppose the main thing we do is we are very transparent in what we're offering. We tell them we have a universities and a post-18 careers evening, but we also have a welcome to the year group meeting for the parents at the start of each year, telling them what we actually have for each year group. We start right from year 7 with our careers events and starting to build in careers, university options, discussing these with the students and the parents from the beginning. We have all those parent information sessions. We publish guidance, newsletters. We have a careers bulletin that goes out weekly to the students and the parents, with information on different careers, information about different universities, what is going on in the school that week, so which universities we've had in, to talk to the students, application deadlines, competitions. So all of this information goes out to the parents on a weekly basis. We did discuss whether we would bring that down to fortnightly or monthly because it may have been a little bit of an overload. I think some of the parents loved it, but some of them felt that there was a little bit too much information coming out there. So it is trying to balance that act of how much information are we giving to the parents without overloading them. We make sure that the parents are involved and they know what's going on is the main thing. And we invite the parents in to be involved in many of our careers events, even when we're inviting alumni in or universities in. When we're talking about careers, a lot of our volunteers are actually parent volunteers, so they can see it from that side as well. So it's very much about getting them involved.
Thank you, Shahana. Moving on to you. I know you have some interesting strategy with the parents, which I love.
Yes, so something that I did mention a little bit earlier, but I'll explain it a little bit more. So we have launched a program where we are calling it Educate the Parent. So for that, we take our group of parents to various universities within the region. It's challenging to take them abroad, but we do take them in within the region to various universities on a weekly basis, every Monday morning. And the universities are absolutely brilliant in supporting us, hosting us, and arranging some nice snacks for us. And we take our group of parents to different parts of the UAE where they get to meet various universities, but also various programs. They get to see how it feels like if your child is going in aviation, if your child is going to architecture, if your child is going to business. So it really makes them think, and also they explore those niche degree programs and understand the employability data, which they were probably not thinking about in those lines. They also get to meet some of our existing students in these universities. So as much as we want to involve the students to have those conversations, we also ask the parents to come and join the board. Whenever a university is in school, it's open to all the parents as well. They are welcome to come and meet them as well. And then we have our parent focused teams. So what they do is they are part of various year groups, and some of them are also alumni parents. So they make sure that the same message that is communicated is communicated across. So in case a student has missed that notification, they are the ones who follow up, and they also inform the other parents who follow up with their children. So it's fun when many a times I get an email from a parent saying that you had posted this for my son, he has missed it, could you share it with me? And I just signpost them to the right place where they have to go and read about it. And then involving this parents as industry professionals to come on board and provide more of mentoring, that really helps and supports as well. One more thing that we have also started doing is cultural career-led newsletters, where, because we have a huge strength of Mandarin and Arabic-speaking parents, so we are also asking those student leaders to launch and work on those newsletters where they're including career-related information in that cultural aspect, and then it becomes more of a community base.
Thank you, Shekana. Moving on to Kevin, just to let you know that there is an interesting discussion going on in the chat here with counselors sharing the emerging destinations for their students. Japan came into the discussion. I love this discussion, people. Please go on. Kevin, moving on to you.
I know I've been reading that and I want to make comments, but I'm already saying enough so they don't have to see my name more than they already do. I would echo what everyone's kind of said. We do very similar things. I guess one thing that has I found it to be really fun. I don't know if the parents find it fun. is I make them do the applications just like the students do. So I have them write personal statements. I have them write the activities lists and the different things. Because if they have to experience it, they know what the student's going through. It's not easy just to apply to Harvard with 4 essays or whatever it might be now. I don't know. And all the other things, you can't just do it in an hour. It takes so much longer. And so I've done quite a bit with the parents and helping them see what an application really looks like. And that's been quite interesting because they said, oh, it takes so much to apply to insert country name here. My child doesn't have time for that. Or, we need to start much earlier. And that's helped quite a bit. I also think it helps as well as sometimes the parent is able to see things that a student wouldn't see, especially when it comes to maybe more personal things or personal stories. So that can help a student if they're stuck or if they're preparing for an interview or something like that. Of course, not every parent is involved in that, right? We can't get to every single parent and every single family all the time. But that has been one useful thing. And that has definitely changed some mindsets about the university applications and also the different career topics we have too, about different careers. The number of families that have come and been really excited about the opportunities in hospitality, in different forms of management or different sub areas of business. When we highlight those rather than just a general business management course, has been really interesting in particular when they're able to actually experience it themselves, amongst the very other things that we've mentioned.
I'd like to change my question a little bit for the universities. So, Movika and Willie, once the students are already at your respective universities, do you keep the connection going with the parents, or are the students already considered independent and that's it, and there is no more connection with the parents? Movika?
So we do keep the connection going also because as a program, we have a travel component in it. So students are changing countries every term. And there are 7 different countries that they go to as a part of the way the data program has been created. So therefore, there is this additional need from the parents to stay in touch and know how things are going, whether their child is now acclimatized to the new environment, or some of those countries for them may be closer to home, so they might understand them better. In some of the newer countries, like for example, for a lot of students, from the western parts of the world, when they're here in India, they had reservations in terms of how will that program look like, and now they finished their terms in India, and they're going to be in Singapore next term. So because there's so much transition within the program itself, we do feel the need to stay in touch with the parents. How we do that is by being a little bit more proactive. So we have monthly newsletters that go out to them. You'd also, I know, brought up data. So we do realize the power of data. It's essentially before, they ask us the question, we try to put together semester-wise reports, student-wise reports, and send it to them proactively to let them know how they're doing, how their day is going, how they're faring in, the projects that they're doing. And that really helps us stay connected. We do have a WhatsApp community, which is strictly moderated, of course, because it's also very difficult to ensure that all the parents will kind of go well with each other as well. And sometimes you have also conflicts within parents when the communities become very close. So we try to keep it super moderated. But because also I think it's an early batch of TETR, like it's the first time, the early first few years of the program, most of them are very supportive, especially the more we involve them into building it out, at least some of them, they help out as well. But we try to integrate them as much as possible. We also do frequent, at least once a quarter, some kind of an AMA with them where they can ask questions and get their questions resolved. Again, a moderated session. We try to get as many questions from them before the session starts so that we don't feel surprised by the questions sometimes. And apart from that, I think just for every parent to have a point of contact on the student experience team is something that really helps. We make sure that any query that comes in to any of the core team members or the student experience teams gets resolved or is at least answered within 24 hours. So we deploy technology to track stats because we use, for example, Freshdesk. There are lots of these technologies that can help you like manage tickets, and we know if someone's been delaying. So we try to have a lot of these processes set in place so that we're essentially servicing them right in terms of their questions or their involvement.
Thank you, Mobika. And Willie, how do you keep the connection going with the parents?
Always. We in TBS Education, we used to do like webinars with parents also to present the programs we have, and also in the undergraduate program, but also for postgraduate program, what the students can go through after their bachelor degree in TBS Education. So basically, we still have the connection with parents. We do WhatsApp group also, but as a parent, also, I will not let my son not have a connection with the business school, because I want to know everything where he's going after his high school. So basically, we always have some parents in the by phone or by WhatsApp to try to keep the connection with them.
Thank you. We see Lamia from Oman, who says that recently European universities started visiting Oman more, but she's looking for more universities. So all the European universities joining this session, please get in touch with Maria, our partner from Gulf, and organize a tour with her in Oman. That's that's my moment for advertising. And now, a few times we already mentioned the word data. And in the world of counseling and application, there is data, not just the grades, but also the predicted grades, the rankings of the universities, the rankings of the programs themselves, graduate outcomes, employability stats. So for the counselors, how do you explain this data to the parents? And what role do you think it plays in the final decision? Leona?
I suppose we use the data really to bridge that gap before the ambition, or between the ambition and the reality for the students. We do show the students and the parents what the universities have given us with the minimum target grades that they need to be even considered for a course. But we often look even further into what were the grades that the students actually accepted onto the course had, and what were the students that came from our school. I think Kevin mentioned this earlier. We look at what grades did the students that came from our school actually have, what other bits of information did they give to the university. So what predicted grades did they have, what actual grades did they get when they were accepted onto that course. What were the admission statistics that were given out that year? What were the universities telling us were expected? Were they the same as what was actually used? So a lot of this is delivered in our parent information evenings to the students. We always, every year, we share our university outcomes, where our students have gone for the previous year, what courses they have done. So the parents are well informed on what is happening from the previous years and what we expect the trends to be and what we're looking at, and what the universities have basically told us. We also look at, as well as the predictor grades, the admission statistics, we look at the data that's often shared in the rankings with employment data, so that the parents are given that informed decision before they even consider the applications. And these are given at the introduction to the year evening, usually in August or September when we first come back. So before the students apply, they've had that time to digest the material, and they've had time to come in and arrange a meeting with us if they want to discuss it further or more in depth in relation to their specific child.
Thank you, Leona. Moving on to Shahana. Just a quick note, the discussion about European universities is ongoing on the chat. Just to let you know that at the end, in the final info session slot, there is going to be a recorded session from Antonella Crisafulli, one of the ICs from Italy we work with, and she has compiled information about applications to public Italian universities, specifically public Italian universities, for all the counselors who are struggling getting on the websites and the information about those universities. Go ahead and watch the recording. I think it's a very useful presentation. And now moving on to Shahana.
The approach is a little bit more in depth when we are analyzing data. So when we are looking at data, we are not only looking at the university data, and we are also looking at the psychometric and the student progress over the years, because many times the universities are also looking at how a student has progressed over the years. And many universities are expecting for grade submissions from as early as grade 9, 10, 11, and 12. So when we are analyzing the data and when we are having those conversations with parents individually and students individually, we do look at how the grade progression has been, what is the triangulation internally in terms of their subjects, in terms of their well-being data, in terms of how would the pressure look like for them if they go to a university which is more highly ranked, but also they will come with its own limitations. So the conversations do revolve around internal data, the projected data, as well as the existing data and what we have from the previous years from the universities. So the parents don't need to go through all of the steps, but as a counselor, what we do is we put the psychometric in front of them, show them what the interest of the child is, have the back end data with us, which is a starting point for the conversation. The parents, when they enter or when they have those reports with them, they know what direction it is going to lead to, and then involving senior leaders as well as subject specialists in those conversations. So they can have those one-to-one discussions before the meeting starts in terms of what are the different projectiles, what are the different professions that could lead in that subject strength. So the data analysis could be a very tricky one, but at the same time, it is key when we are looking at and supporting students. Many times counselors might not be data specialists or would not be able to extract that kind of information. So we do need the school support. We do need the data, the person who's in charge of data in the school to support you so that you extract the relevant information.
Thank you, Shehana. And moving on to Kevin, the question of data and how do you interpret this with the parents?
I think Cleona already took my bit out for me. But I guess the one thing that I would say, which we try to look at as well, is as best we can, of course, sort of labor market trends and opportunities, within the UAE, of course, and beyond, wherever that's available. I think a big thing that has been coming up with parents is graduate employability. So when the students are finishing university, what's the world of work looking like for those graduates? But even also, what is the world of work looking like for students that, let's say, leave our school after their IB diploma and maybe don't go to university right away? Because we always talk about university, but the world of work is something that's quite important to recognize that could be a pathway for some students. And what those landscapes look like in different countries, especially if the student is not from the UAE and are going back to their home country. What does that look like? What would those opportunities be like? I think that's important data to be bringing in is those options and those opportunities for students, whether they are leaving university, what the option for them there, whether they're leaving high school and they're going to the world of work, what options are there. It's obviously data is obviously not always the same for every country and every place, but we try our best to find what we can. It really obviously depends on where the student is looking toward, where they're coming from in different scenarios. But I think beyond everything that's already been said, we try to look at those trends as well to see what's out there for them.
Thank you, Kevin. And moving on to the universities, even though we have gathered an amazing amount of counselors here, not every student in the world is happy to have a counselor helping them. And they often rely on the help of their parents. So how do you, sometimes for the parents, this data is actually sounding very, very complicated. How can you simplify your requirements in terms of data so that parents can help their students when applying to universities? Well, Vika?
We have so our approach currently is that there's an application where we ask for the data, but this is very simple data, mostly around, we do request for grades and, their extracurriculars, etc. But there's no data beyond that. It's essentially, this simple data that they need to add. And most of our evaluation happens through our own psychometric, sort of like it's a personality test. It has multiple different parts to it. It measures your creativity, EQ, IQ through a lot of questions that also test for students' empathy, their ways of managing political dilemmas, how they think, structure, etc. It's an AI-based test followed by an interview. So I think that solves for a lot of for us as a process, it becomes sort of like that becomes benchmark that we use to sort of figure out who is the right fit for us. The way that we do use data a lot post that to help people understand, what the offering at Tether is. But I have this, I don't know if it's an unpopular opinion, but between data and, stories and anecdotal insights, and that anecdote could also be, from the life of the student, a moment when they had a lot of joy doing something, or their favorite memory from preschool, or what work they were doing, or what they were involved in, that could give you cues into what the student or the child really likes. And I sometimes, I think that during counseling, sometimes those become more powerful levers to have an open conversation. So, for example, this is how I would think about it. And I borrow this from advertising because I have studied brand management, like 10 years ago. But ads have this wonderful way of telling you a story, and then they add something called as reason to believe. And that reason to believe could be like a set of data points, which only help you kind of give you the reason to believe that entire story that you've just told. So what we try to do is mostly, if we're talking to the student, we're trying to find the alignment. We check with them that, are you interested in entrepreneurship? Can you talk a little bit about, what is it that you'd want to do? Try to get them to tell us something from their experience which aligns with the program, and then supplement it with facts, figures, of things at Tetter that have happened, which are in alignment to supporting their goal. And I'm sure that, some form of this would have been tried by almost all, by many of the counselors, is that you can always kind of find the overarching kind of understanding of who that person is and use that story arc to help them, choose a line. And then data should just kind of like be supplementing and helping them understand and believe that why what you're saying is true. And if that story resonates at a personal level, chances are that data will also work out. The reason why I say this is because if you have a data first approach, then a lot of times it can become very confusing because you're looking at a lot of data and the insight sort of then, becomes debatable, etc. But if they're fundamentally connecting and relating to, the story or the potential or the vision for that student's future, then data can really help them understand how it will happen.
Just making a note. Thank you, Malvika, and also Willie.
I totally agree with Malvika, because the data have to be like a plus for the students and the parents. Like it could be just not only to present all the data. All the schools are doing like employment rates, how many alumni, how many university partners you have in our business school. So basically, it just have to be a plus of information for the parents and the students to show that what we are saying it's really true for the students and for the parents. So basically, we have like a welcome guide for the students and also for the parents here in T-based education, which shows what is behind the numbers we show in our website or in our brochures we can have in T-based education. So basically, what is the number of employment rate we have in T-based education in the bachelor program? What is behind this number for the parents?
Thank you. As we are going almost to the end of the webinar of session, just 5 minutes, I have one specific question to the counselors. What advice would you give to universities offering niche, emerging, or futuristic programs on how to build credibility and promote themselves among parents? Leona, what would be your advice?
I suppose the main one would be to showcase any of the success stories that they have. Where are the graduates working now? What are their career paths? What employers are employing them? So maybe using alumni panels or the employer partnerships to add credibility to what they're actually saying. And I suppose highlighting transferable skills is another thing. So highlighting the skills the students are gaining from that, because no matter what, as careers and university counsellors, we keep talking about transferable skills and how we're preparing students for the jobs that may not even exist yet. So if the skills are transferable and adaptable, they should be able to be preparing our students for any role that they may want in the future.
Thank you. Shahana, what's your advice?
I would say being visible and available for parents to have those open conversations and giving them advice. I'll just relate an example that we had recently with the university that came in talking about geothermal energy and degrees in geothermal energy. And they did a very fun activity with our students on Tim Tams and how it retains the kind of, to cut it short, having professors come in from those respective departments and having those very interactive workshops with students at a younger age really makes them think and reflect, is this something that could be made for me? So I would say definitely do have some workshops with alumni, with professors to come in with schools and have those interactive conversations and transparent conversations.
Kevin, what's your advice?
Be transparent. I think that's really the key thing. I mean, especially if a university is newer or they've not maybe had the chance to be involved in a certain country yet. What is the student getting when they come? What is their experience going to be like? And have maybe a for parents page which says something like, this is what your student will do, and this is why they'll do it, and this is what they'll gain from this, and make it really, really clear and I think accessible for lots of different audiences is really useful. If the student comes and they are expecting something and then there's a sunk cost or a hidden cost later on, then that doesn't always look the best. And the worst thing that we hear as counselors is, oh, I got to the university, but actually it was like this. And they didn't necessarily like that very much. So I think that type of transparency is so key because it's not a 1 or 2 year investment. It's a 3 to 5 year investment when you're looking at the student and their journey and where they'll go with the university.
And my questions for the universities would be, if you have to ask the counselors to present your institution with a few words to the parents, how would you like to be presented? Malvika?
Well, I would say that TETR is an undergraduate program that believes that the new age of the world requires education to be a little bit more practical, because that's the only way in which students will be able to gain real life skills and be able to be effective in all scenarios of the world that could possibly be in the next 4 years. And that currently, because 3 to 4 years in a college is a very long time, considering how fast the industry is changing. We're building something that really will evolve and will provide students with the exposure that they would be able to evolve with the industry, because they will get to build for real. Their work will within the college will have real world impact, whether it is revenue, whether it's brands, whether it's products that they create. It's all very, very real. And we would love to then learn from, through the councils, of course, what the students and parents would want us to do in order to really find the right fitment, if there is, and explore that together. So I think that would be my request.
Thank you. And Willie, what would be your request? How would you like TBS to be presented?
Actually, it's a difficult question, yes, for us a little bit because, each year we invite some counselors to TBS education, as we invite this year Kevin to 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 see how TBS education is in France, how we manage bachelor program. But my request would be like, TBS Education is a very well-known institution in France. Also, we are top 10 also, and we are part of second best bachelor in France. So basically, we want to show that TBS Education offers a lot of possibilities for international students to have a specialization with a specialization here and offer something, go through the master degree after.
Thank you, Willie. And as we just run out of time and we have to conclude, I just wanted to remind, I'm seeing here in the chat, the people are talking about vocational degrees and job opportunities. And today during the info session slot, the first one, Tether College of Business actually had a recorded session on their overview of professions of the future. And a similar session is being done by Serge Nader, our IC, who was very active in the chat from his counselor's point of view, and that session is going to be aired in the last info session slot. So whoever is interested in hearing more about the careers and professions of the future, go ahead and watch these two sessions. I had a bunch of other questions to ask our counselors and university representatives, but unfortunately we have to conclude so that everybody can get into their next meetings. But lots of thanks to the panel for this discussion. I hope that we managed to solve some of the issues around the parents and also figure out that the parents are not that bad after all. And the counselors gave some ideas about what you can do more at your schools. If you have any questions for any of them, do not hesitate to get in touch with them. And I'm looking forward to see you during the rest of the conference. I hope you all enjoyed. And see you again next year. Goodbye, everybody.